Mont Leonis is going to be a character you guys do not want to miss out on, especially if you're new in Brave Exvius. He's a very powerful physical tank for you guys to get your hands on, very self-sufficient as well, does well in comeback situations. Thanks for coming in, hanging out with us today as we talk about Mont Leonis in Brave Exvius. He is coming over from War of the Visions. It is a collaboration. He is a free character. That's why he's getting his own video. Usually do free characters with their own video. Thank you guys for spending that time here. Thank you guys for that support via Patreon as well as YouTube channel memberships. And let's get into it. Mont Leonis, what makes him so strong? Well, he's going to be a very strong physical tank for you. His chaining frame family that he can support chain with is Stardust Ray. His TMR is the Destined Prince here. 20% HP, 40% attack and defense here when equipped with a sword, which is probably going to be a weapon that you're going to have on him a lot of the time. The attack, not so much mattering here. It's more the 20% HP, 40% defense. Pretty strong. Nothing super crazy, right? If you're a veteran, you've been playing the game for a while, you probably have a lot of stuff better than this, but it is still really good. So if you're a new player, you get Mont, you get the TMR, you're going to be using this for a long time. His STMR is the Lion Emblem, which is an accessory here. 272 HP, 23 attack, 23 defense, 23 spirit. And the ability is Rallying Cry, which increases the LB gauge to your entire party by 5 LB gauge crystals. This STMR, it's not crazy broken or anything, but it's like a support utility super trust master reward. If you're a new player, you're probably not gonna be actually putting this on Mont himself. You might be putting this on like a support character. You could put this on Mont, but he's gonna have a lot of things to do to stay safe every turn for you guys. So you put this on like a support character, help fill up other characters' limit bursts that you can use from your healers and your breakers and things of that nature. But it is still, excuse me, pretty good to have in your arsenal. That was a mouthful of a sentence. Anyway, equipment selection, we have swords, daggers, spears, and hammers. Like I said, a lot of the time out there you're gonna be wearing some sort of a sword. There's the comeback anniversary celebration. There's a lot of good weapons and armors and pieces of gear for you guys to go back and pick up on to put on Mont and other characters. A lot of them though are very strong defensive pieces and utility pieces of gear, so definitely go check that video out. I'll look for it in the videos. It should be just a couple days old. Maybe I'll even put it in the description for you guys down there. It sounds like a good idea. I'll do that for you guys there. Armor selection, we have light shields, heavy shields, hats, helmets, clothing, light armor, and heavy armor. So he's got pretty much everything except for robes there. And let's get into his active abilities. So we have Stone Throw. Unlike in War of the Visions, Stone Throw here actually gives you threat. So 100% chance to be targeted by enemies for 3 turns to the caster. So if you want him to be provoking all single target attacks, you'll have that with Stone Throw. Body Slam, actual utility here, low multiplier, but it does dispel all status effects for an enemy, so you'll dispel any sort of debuffs or buffs they have on there. So be wary, new players. This will remove debuffs that you have on the enemy as well. So if they have like a defensive buff and a spirit buff, but you have their attack lowered and their magic lowered and you body slam them, you're not just removing their defense and spirit buffs, you're going to remove their attack and magic breaks too, so you can actually make them hit you harder. So if you do that, make sure you re-break their attack and magic after you body slam them. We have Discipline here, which mitigates physical damage taken by 30% for 3 turns to the caster. Gives the caster 150% attack buff, not that big of a deal, but also gives LB gauge of 3 to 4 to the caster here. We have Power Break and Magic Break, so we talk about those, removing the breaks. He does actually have 65% attack and magic breaks to all enemies there, so you can dual cast this. He does get dual cast in 6-star form, so you can use him as your initial breaker if you're a newer player. That's very powerful. He's got a lot of utility, like I said. Then he has Earth Blade and Fire Blade. 80% Earth Imperil, 80% Fire Imperil, so your enemies are going to take 80% bonus Earth and Fire damage. Also gives himself Earth and Fire Imbue, so if you have a non-elemental weapon on, you now are going to be doing physical elemental damage based on what skill you just used here with either the Earth Blade or the Fire Blade. Then we have Taunting Blade, which actually doesn't give threat. His threat is Stone Throw in this game, but Taunting Blade here does 10 times mod to all enemies and increases his LB gauge, tongue twisters, I'm telling you, maybe I just can't talk today, by 3, and is also Stardust Ray chaining frame family. So he's got Earth Blade, Fire Blade, and Taunting Blade. This is going to allow you to chain with other characters that are the Stardust Ray family, so you can increase your damage. It's another thing that he does utility-wise. Then we have the very powerful skill Sentinel here. This is a skill you have to use every single turn because the buffs only last 1 turn, but it makes him an absolute beast of a character. So 200% defense and spirit buff for 1 turn to the caster, 25% physical mitigation for 1 turn to the caster, 25% magic mitigation for 1 turn to the caster, and it activates the chance to protect all allies from physical damage. with a 50 to 75% cover mitigation for one turn to the caster as well. So the only thing this doesn't give him is general damage mitigation, which if you have that from a support, which a lot of players do have general mitigation from a support, you can use Sentinel every single turn. This isn't a cooldown skill. You can just Sentinel, 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 and it is one of the skills that you can dual cast, so you can use Sentinel and something else as well. So you can Sentinel in Attack Break, Sentinel in Magic Break, Sentinel in Earth Imbue, Sentinel and do a Stardust Ray skill to chain with another support, and then chain finish on it with another character. So Sentinel, Sentinel, Sentinel. The best thing about it too is if you're relying on re-ray still, right, Mont? Still takes a bunch of damage, he's blocking all those hits, but then he still goes down, he gets re-race, your turn comes back up. Just keep spamming that Sentinel, 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 Sentinel. Recast those buffs, recast that mitigation, recast that cover. You can even Sentinel for the AoE physical damage, and then Stone Throw to target those single target magic attacks and have him cover that too, because it also gives him magic mitigation and a spirit buff. So very strong character there. He also has Paladin's Guard, which is going to be an even better skill, something you don't have to use every single turn. Better in a different way, because you can start with Paladin's Guard here, 5-turn cooldown available on turn 1. Gives you 50% physical mitigation for 3 turns to the caster, gives you fire and earth resistance of 100% for 3 turns to the caster, and gives you a physical cover that lasts 3 turns as well. So it doesn't give you the 25% physical magical mitigation, doesn't give you the 200% defense and spirit buff either, but it does give you 50% physical mitigation. You can, if you want to, like turn 1, Paladin Guard and Sentinel, not to get the double cover or anything crazy like that, because they're both physical cover, but you'll get the 50% physical mitigation and you'll still get that 200% defense and spirit buff. So if you want him to just be a tanky beast, you can just Paladin's Guard, Sentinel, 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 Sentinel over and over and over again after you're done with Paladin's Guard. Just keep Sentineling and provoking every single turn, and that's all you're going to do with them, which is why I said you might want to put his TMR on someone else, because he'd be very busy being super bulky. But he is going to have that for you there. He also has Killer Blade and Beast Breaker, 2 Stardust Ray chaining skills here. 24 times multiplier, so actually not super crazy. Not terrible, but not super crazy good. With a 75% either human killer buff for 2 turns to himself or beast killer buff for 2 turns to himself. A lot of times, guys, though, you're not really going to care about this stuff because you're building him to be tanky. HP, defense, spirit, things of that nature. You're not building up his attack. I know he has an attack buff, but you're not building his attack up. You want to make him as tanky as possible so he survives all of the boss's attacks, and then you use him to Stardust Ray chain, sometimes with another character to just build up the chain multiplier to do more damage. Now, passive abilities here. He does have quite a bit of attack in his kit here, right? We're talking like 150% attack in his kit. But the rest of it, right, we have 50% defense, 20% HP and MP, 30% more defense, 30% defense, HP, 20% defense and spirit, 20% HP, 30% HP, 20% defense, spirit, and MP. So he's got a lot of tanky, bulky stats to him. He does have a little bit of multiplier increases, right? 15 times mod increase for Earth Blade, Fire Blade, and Taunting Blade, which is going to actually give those a decent multiplier, right? 25 times mod for Taunting Blade there. But like I said, he's not a damage dealer, he is a tank. He does have 50% chance to be targeted from other single target attacks. So if you do have some of that gear that I talked about in the 4th anniversary comeback campaign, right, we have an accessory that gives 20% draw attacks. There's a shield that you can get that's not part of that campaign, but there's a shield called the Moogle plushie from a 3-star base character that's a Trust Mastery that gives 30% draw attacks. So you have the 50 here, 20 from an accessory, and then 30 from the shield, and you have 100% chance to be 100% draw attacks, which means you basically have passive 100% provoke, which means you never ever need to use Stone Throw to get that 100% provoke. So that's a thing you can do with him too, because he does have that passive there, which means you can just literally Paladin's Guard, Sentinel, spam Sentinel, chain, Sentinel and chain, Sentinel and chain. He's writing a song, it's called Sentinel and Chain by Mont Leonis. Very strong ability there. He also has some counters here. He also has a chance to ignore fatal damage when his HP is above 5%. He's about to die. He also has some passive fire and earth resistance. He is also immune to paralysis, confusion, and petrification. He also has 50%, believe it or not, limit burst damage increase, as well as a 150% defense and spirit buff when his HP drops below 51%, with a little bit of LB damage, LB high tide, LB fill rate, and MP fill rate here for you guys. The counter blade here, a little bit of a multiplier attack there, and it's going to give him 4 LB gauge crystals. He's got a lot of ways to fill his LB gauge up. So with all this LB damage, LB increase, all this other stuff, what does his LB do? It is a Destiny's Cross, 32 times mod of damage to all enemies, decrease fire and Fire and Ice, Fire and Earth resistance by 100% for 3 turns to all enemies, and increase the Earth resistance and Fire resistance of your party by 100%. Really, it's not that crazy of a thing. I think a lot of the time he's going to be a boring character to use, but he's going to be very, very effective, which is why you don't want to miss out on him, especially as a new player or someone who doesn't have a later physical tank who's very self-sufficient. If you already have someone in your party that does physical mitigation and magic mitigation and huge buffs and things of that nature, right? You're not a brand new player. You have all those things already. You might not really care about this character, but if you don't have someone that spams out 200% defense and spirit buffs, someone that has physical damage mitigation, magic damage mitigation, you don't have that, then you might be able to just get Mont in your team and spam Sentinel for days. He's a very powerful character. He's right up there with like Lightning. I talked about him. He's like the physical version of Lightning. I think Lightning might be a little bit stronger because she has that big 50% general mitigation that she can apply to your whole party over and over on her limit burst. Mont doesn't really have that. He's got like fire and earth resistance buffs, but you can use him as a new player, and he's gonna be very, very, very effective for you, and you're gonna go a long way in any sort of fight that needs a physical tank in your party. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out here today. If you want to see the stuff that I said I was linking in the description for you, go ahead and check those out, right? The 4th anniversary item guides, things of that nature. I'm gonna have a lot more content, FFBE War of the Visions, here on the channel. So thank you guys so much for spending time here today. If you want to see us live, Twitch is a thing. Join the Discord. It's in the description of every video. But until then, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.